Okay, tonight we want to give you and fellow Alabamians some information about a crisis in Alabama. Pharmacy benefit managers, known as PBMs. They are the middlemen in the prescription drug industry. They don't produce anything, they don't build anything, they just dictate to local pharmacies how much they will be reimbursed for filling a prescription for the pharmacy customers. Your local pharmacists are more than the ones filling the prescription. They offer advice, they answer questions, and they help facilitate communication between the doctor. Locally owned pharmacies are at risk. Approximately 300 independent pharmacies have closed within the last 6 years in Alabama. Currently, about 500 independent pharmacies remain in Alabama. Their ability to operate is at risk because the PBMs force them to sign oppressive participation contracts to be allowed into the reimbursement networks. Pharmacies have gag orders that prevent them from discussing reasons they can fill your prescription or pricing unless the customer initiates the conversation. And even then, they face the possibility of the PBM throwing them out of the network anyway. Spread pricing is a practice where the PBMs charge the insurer a higher price than is, I'll go back. Where it charges the insurer a higher price than is reimbursed to the pharmacy. The PBMs keep the spread difference. They also have clawbacks. That is where the PBMs can come back months after the fact, and they say they overpaid the reimbursement to the pharmacist and claw back and even take money back. A local pharmacist recently had shared this PBM network, did a $150,000 clawback 9 months after the fact. Can you imagine paying back somebody $150,000 saying you were overpaid? You may have heard of some PBMs like Caremark with CVS or Express Scripts and Optum RX, to name a few. You also have probably heard about some pharmacies going out of business like Winn-Dixie, Rite Aid, and Walgreens is actually struggling. PBMs favor some chain stores and mail order services. A real-life example for the unfair reimbursement is a cancer drug that costs $50. A local pharmacy like Costco could reimburse $97. A local drugstore in the network like CVS would be reimbursed $9,000, while the mail order services would be reimbursed $19,200.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins.
That is just recapping what Robert was just talking about, where the local independent pharmacies get reimbursed $97. The preferred provider by the PBMs gets reimbursed $9,000, and then the mail order preferred by the PBM gets $19,200. So they're effectively putting that money back in their pockets. Pharmacies are also scored for reimbursements. PBMs rate the pharmacies based on how well the customers take their medicine. So if a customer is trying to save money by stretching their prescription, the pharmacy may get a lower rating and therefore a lower percentage reimbursement, so they are tasked with also policing the customers to take their medicine as prescribed. Currently, there is no transparency of drug pricing or fair reimbursements. An employer such as the City of Auburn may receive a rebate, but the PBMs don't have to provide any documentation to justify the cost or the rebates. So the PBMs can keep part of that reimbursement without having to show any financial data. Just a FYI, Blue Cross Blue Shield is considered a nonprofit organization, so they don't have to provide financials even when requested. House Bill 238 would have corrected many of these issues for the local pharmacies, but it was indefinitely postponed May 7th of this year. In the meantime, local pharmacies are hurting financially, with some being reimbursed below their acquisition cost and some only making $10 per prescription filled. This all while the preferred PBM pharmacies are favored with huge reimbursements. A study group was meeting at the State House this past Thursday to discuss the topic. 5 pharmacists from around the state showed up to sit in and listen. They were made to leave the room. Who was allowed to stay, you ask? Lobbyists from Blue Cross Blue Shield, Business Council of Alabama, CVS, Alabama Farmers Association, and our very own Joe Lovern. Why the secrecy? Why was the public removed from the room? In July of 2024, the Federal Trade Commission released an interim staff report that found, and I quote, that the PBMs hold substantial influence over the independent pharmacies by imposing unfair, arbitrary, and harmful contractual terms that impact the independent pharmacies and the ability to stay in business and serve their communities. So we're asking you to take action, call your local representatives. This could affect you and you being able to fill your prescription. We ask you to call the governor and ask for a special session to address this issue. Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, and 5 other states have already passed legislation to protect the independent pharmacies and their customers. I challenge you to speak to your local pharmacist and ask how the PBMs are affecting them, because it will ultimately
become a part of our Be Informed campaign and be informed.